What happens when the soul of a story walks away and no one can fill the void? The Witcher was once hailed as Netflix's fantasy crown jewel. Now, after season 4, it's become something else entirely. The departure of Henry Cavill wasn't just a casting change, it was the first domino in a collapse that fans saw coming and now can't stop talking about. But here's the real shock. Season 4 didn't fail just because Cavill left. It failed because it lost its way. Today, we're breaking down exactly how The Witcher Season 4 fell apart. The messy recasting, the baffling story decisions, the growing fan backlash, and the one last chance the series has to turn things around. When Henry Cavill announced his departure in late 2022, fans weren't just surprised, they were devastated. Cavill wasn't just playing Geralt of Rivia, he was Geralt. A lifelong fan of the books and games, he brought a weight and authenticity to the role that no one else could replicate. But more importantly, Cavill fought for the integrity of the source material, often clashing with writers who, according to several reports, wanted to take the story in wildly different directions. Speculation ran wild. Was it creative differences? Was it scheduling conflicts with Superman? Some reports hinted that Cavill grew frustrated with how far the show was straying from author Andrzej Sapkowski's original vision. And while no official confirmation ever settled the debate, one thing was clear. His exit wasn't just the loss of a lead actor, it was the loss of the show's North Star. But the departure was only the beginning. Enter Liam Hemsworth. A familiar face, sure, but stepping into Cavill's boots as Geralt, that was always going to be a tough sell. When the first teaser dropped, the internet reacted fast, and not kindly. Some fans praised Hemsworth's physicality, but most couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't their Geralt. One viral comment summed it up. It's like seeing your favorite band play with a different singer. The notes are there, but the soul isn't. Recasting a title character is always risky, especially when the original was so beloved. But The Witcher wasn't just asking viewers to accept a new face. It was asking them to ignore everything that had come before, as if nothing had changed. But something had changed, and fans felt it immediately. Even more than the casting controversy, it was the unraveling of the story that truly broke Season 4. Because if there's one thing fans of The Witcher have come to expect, it's depth. Morally gray characters, layered political intrigue, and a world where every decision has weight. But in Season 4, those elements began to vanish. Let's start with the most jarring shift. Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri, the emotional core of the series, were barely together. After 3 seasons of building their bond, their storylines were suddenly scattered across different continents and timelines. And instead of using this separation to develop their individual arcs, the show seemed to leave them adrift. Geralt wandered from one monster battle to the next, with little narrative momentum. Yennefer's political involvement felt disconnected and oddly muted, especially for someone who once commanded entire councils. And Ciri, arguably the most important character in the overarching saga, was shoved into a side plot that barely scratched the surface of her transformation into something more powerful and dangerous. But it wasn't just a matter of being apart, it was how the separation was handled. In Sapkowski's novels, distance is used to build tension, to show how choices ripple across the continent. Here, the show treated it more like an inconvenience, something to fast forward through with exposition dumps and half-hearted reunions. The emotional payoff was gone. Characters who were once rich with subtext and struggle were now moving pieces in a plot that seemed unsure of where it was going. Worse still, the themes that gave the earlier seasons depth were watered down. The clash between destiny and free will, once central to the story, was barely touched. The struggle between order and chaos, the balance between politics and personal freedom, and the lingering scars of war, mostly sidelined in favor of faster pacing and superficial drama. Complex moral dilemmas were replaced with straightforward good versus evil scenarios, the exact thing The Witcher was once praised for avoiding. And then there's the lore. Fans of the books and games noticed something immediately. The showrunners were taking liberties that weren't just creative. They were confusing. Entire arcs were rearranged, character motivations shifted without explanation, and key relationships were rushed or overlooked. For example, the major bond between Geralt and Ciri, the father-daughter dynamic that should have anchored the season, felt thin. Their brief moments together lacked emotional weight, making their connection feel more like a reminder than a revelation. Some viewers defended these changes as necessary for television, but for many, it felt like the writers weren't just adapting the story, they were abandoning it. And without a spine to hold it all together, the season collapsed under its own contradictions. If you felt like Season 4 was hard to follow, or just hard to care about, you're not alone. Pacing issues plagued nearly every episode. Long stretches of aimless wandering, dialogue that tried to sound profound but often fell flat, and action scenes that, while visually impressive, lacked the emotional stakes that once made the show thrilling. Even Geralt's arc felt diluted. Instead of the brooding, morally complex warrior we knew, Season 4's Geralt drifted through scenes like a tourist in his own story. That spark, that rage, that dry wit, it was missing. And while Liam Hemsworth gave it his all, it's hard to ignite a character when the script gives you nothing to burn. But the audience didn't just notice, they responded. The reaction wasn't a slow burn, it was explosive. Within hours of Season 4 landing, audience ratings cratered while complaint threads and edits flooded every platform. Rotten Tomatoes showed one of the worst audience responses of the series, with user scores in the teens and critics' ratings dipping to franchise lows. A concrete signal that the divide between critics and longtime fans had become a gulf. It didn't take long for the internet to find a narrative. This wasn't just a bad season, it was betrayal. Old interviews and on-set quips that once seemed harmless were suddenly weaponized as evidence that the creative team never respected Sapkowski's work. Fans compiled thread after thread, comparing book beats to what aired, and those side-by-side breakdowns became shareable proof for people already primed to feel angry. The pileup of screenshots, deleted tweets, and resurfaced podcast clips turned suspicion into a storyline that spread faster than any official statement. Petitions lit up too, not a trickle, but hundreds of thousands of signatures demanding change, rehiring, or even the writer's removal. One of the largest campaigns collected well into the six-figure range and grew long after Cavill left, showing the scale of the fan movement and how personal this felt for many viewers. That kind of organized backlash isn't casual grumbling, it's collective action. Then came the memes and edits, simple tactics with enormous reach. Fans created side-by-side compilations of Cavill versus Hemsworth performances, slow-motion comparisons, and emotionally scored montages that reframed old scenes as authentic and new ones as imitation. Those clips racked up millions of views, becoming cultural shorthand. Not My Geralt, Bring Back Cavill, and similar hashtags trended regionally on X, Twitter, and TikTok, as people use bite-sized content to spread a widely felt disappointment. The backlash was more than noise. It showed up in viewer behavior. Early streaming charts and social metrics suggested the season didn't dominate Netflix the way past Witcher drops did. Critics pointed out it even failed to debut at #1 on some lists, despite massive promotional pushes. At the same time, several outlet analyses noted the paradox. Controversy drove clicks, but the controversy didn't necessarily translate into sustained engagement or goodwill. In short, lots of people tuned in to see what the fuss was about, but many didn't stick around. Corporate response, or the lack of one, made things worse. Studio replies were measured and sometimes constrained to, "We appreciate feedback," while the showrunner later gave more considered interviews. But by then, the narrative had hardened. Silence, canned replies, and slow answers made it easy for fans to read intent where none might have been stated. When organizations respond late to a public anger that feels personal, the anger often becomes an identity marker for the audience, and that's extremely hard to unwind. Finally, the damage radiated outward. Merch engagement stalled, influencers shifted focus, and a number of previously supportive creators posted follow-ups that softened or reversed their initial takes. Whether or not you believe the season was objectively bad, the ecosystem reacted as if trust had been broken. And, on the internet, perception is very often the thing that shapes reality. With Season 5 already in production, the clock is ticking. Netflix has 1, maybe 2, seasons left to salvage The Witcher. But can it be done? That depends on whether the showrunners are willing to listen. Listen to the fans who cared about the books, who followed the characters through games and novels, who believed in Cavill's Geralt, not just because of how he looked, but because of how he understood the role. To win them back, Season 5 will need more than flashy monsters and epic fights. It needs heart, it needs chemistry, and most of all, it needs to remember what made The Witcher special in the first place. A dark, complex world held together by flawed heroes trying to do the right thing, even when it costs them everything. The Witcher didn't fail because one actor left. It failed because it lost its way, drifting from the very story that made it matter. And once a fan base feels betrayed, trust is hard to earn back. But the story isn't over, not yet. So the real question is, can a fantasy epic find its soul again? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are you still watching? Did Season 4 lose you? Or are you holding out hope for a comeback? Either way, something tells me Season 5 will be make or break.